All right.
Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Clyde Cleveland.
Hi, Clyde. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Sorry I'm late. I was on on a conference call. I had to just pull myself away, but I'm here now. If you wanted to ask me any questions or.
Excellent. Well, on the line with us is our co-host John Thompson.
Okay.
And yes, if you would tell our audience a little bit about your group to start off with before we start getting into the details.
Okay. All right. Well, the group that I'm putting most of my attention with now, and I've been involved with certainly with Campaign for Liberty and Ron Paul. Our county won the county in Jefferson County, Iowa, because of our work there for about 15 years, educating people in constitutional study groups and everything. We had 38% of the vote for Ron Paul there, which was the biggest he got anywhere in the world, in the country. And also I was with the Campaign for Liberty, with the Continental Congress with Bob Schultz. I was a delegate to that. I work with lots of different groups, but the group that I'm really excited about, that I'd like to spend some time with everyone tonight on, is the group that's re-inhabiting the Republic as of 1791. And that group has got tremendous momentum all over the country, and they're doing some great work, and I think it could be the thing that really allows us to all come together and all the different freedom groups in the country and really restore our indigenous powers, in what I talk about in my book, Common Sense Revisited. So that's what I'm really excited about right now, more than anything else.
Now, this is related to events surrounding the Civil War, if I'm not mistaken. If you would take us through that, how this came about, that the Congress was, for lack of a better term, disbanded?
Congress was disbanded. There was no quorum. When the southern states seceded, there was not a legal quorum for either the House or the Senate to meet.
And this was because when the southern states left, the North didn't recognize them as their own separate nation. And just viewed those representatives, those congressmen, as just not being there that day. Well,
they just left.
Right.
They didn't have to view them as not being there. They weren't there.
Yeah.
They seceded. They really weren't there. And so Lincoln had a serious problem. And so what he did was he declared a national emergency, and basically was ruling as a military dictator under a War Powers Act that many people don't feel has ever been rescinded from the research that we've seen.
Was that by executive order, or was that something, a power granted to Lincoln by the remaining Congress?
That's a very good question. I believe it was the remaining Congress did it, but again, they didn't have a quorum. I'm thinking it was more of an executive order, to tell you the truth. It was probably later ratified by the Congress that was there. God, that's a really good question. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think that's pretty much the way it happened. He just declared it.
We'd want to go back and trace that chain of events.
Absolutely, and I have all that. Right now I can't remember the detail on that one. But basically, a War Powers Act was implemented at that time. The government was run, and there were some very heavy things that went on, during those few years. And then what happened was that the country, of course, was bankrupt, and that's what wars do, and that's what bankers love, when countries go bankrupt and governments go bankrupt, because then that's when they gain total control and power over a government.
And that's when they're most vulnerable.
Yeah. And so in 1871, a corporation was formed in the District of Columbia called the United States Corporation. And that corporation, which was supposed to only have jurisdiction in the District of Columbia, has in fact, appears from the evidence, become our de facto government. And they sort of trick people in to being part of that corporation with several different adhesion contracts, which starts with birth certificates and Social Security cards and driver's licenses and securities licenses and insurance licenses and everything else.
A piece of that in the tax honesty movement, when they talk about the IRS and
Correct.
the collection of taxes, and that in the IRS code, the code really applies to federal employees or to employees or citizens in the districts that are not
Right.
within the jurisdiction of the states, such as
Exactly.
Washington, D.C.
Exactly. And so this is all part of it. And in essence, what's happened is the country has become a corporation. Government at all levels it's like a corporate government structure.
Is there a place where we can go to see these documents?
Yeah. Well, there's a place you can go to see the outline, and I believe that there are links to the actual documents. If you go to the Republic of the United States.org, you will see a lot of this. You'll see the history there explained pretty clearly on all the different ways, and all the states have them too, like republicoflorida.org or republicofiowa.org. They all have versions of this history there that are very, very, very educational to see, and a lot of it is there. There's so many things. Like in 1845, even before the Civil War, there was legislation passed that would ultimately allow common law to be usurped by admiralty law. That's when the flags changed. The gold fringe on the flags started in there. But what we are really run by corporate law. Now, your audience probably is aware that there are judges now that have actually said, and it seems to be happening more and more, when somebody goes into one of our courts in this country and says that they want to use the Constitution in some way as a defense, they are actually told that the Constitution has no jurisdiction in this judge, or some words to that effect.
We've got a lot of reports of that from tax cases.
Exactly.
Involving the IRS, when the Constitution is requested to be brought in, and they're going to reference the Constitution in defense of not paying taxes or to balance the claims of the IRS, but they're told at that point that it's not applicable.
That's correct. And so what is applicable, and when did that change? And that's exactly what all this traces this down to. The key day must have been 1871 when that court decision was, when that corporation was founded in the District of Columbia. And then there's several other things, like in 1917, this was a key thing, the Trading with Enemy Act. The Trading with Enemy Act was originally passed during World War I, and the purpose, the alleged purpose, was to be able to confiscate the property of anyone in the country who had anything to do with our enemies during that war, and that's what they did. They would declare under the Trading with the Enemy Act that people were enemy combatants. They would classify them as enemy combatants,